On Saturday morning, a rocket built by a private Indian company lifted off from the Satish Dhawan Space Center and 17 minutes later, its upper stage settled into a 450-kilometer orbit around Earth. The company is Skyroot Aerospace. The rocket is called Vikram-1, and the headline being repeated across space coverage this week is that India has become only the third nation in history where a private company, not a government space agency, has placed a payload into orbit. The other two are the United States and China. That is a genuinely rare technical achievement, the kind that entire national space programs have failed to pull off on their first attempt. So is this the real deal? A durable new player in the global launch industry? Or a symbolic milestone still years away from mattering commercially? Let us sort the signal from the noise. Get the specifics right before you judge the significance. Vikram-1 stands about 22 meters tall, roughly the height of a 7-story building, and is designed to carry payloads of up to 350 kilograms into low Earth orbit. It uses 3 solid fuel stages and a liquid-fueled upper stage powered by a 3D printed engine. A manufacturing approach the company says is flying for the first time on an Indian rocket. Saturday's flight slipped 35 minutes past its planned window after engineers caught a technical issue at the 5-minute mark in the countdown, then launched cleanly once resolved. Onboard was Skyroot's own Scope satellite, built to gather performance data on the rocket during ascent, alongside 2 symbolic payloads, a small gold rocket sculpture and a lab-grown gem art piece. The vehicle reached its planned orbit within the expected window, which is the actual technical bar this mission needed to clear. Understand why this list has only 3 names on it. Building a rocket that survives the trip to orbit requires solving problems that bankrupt well-funded teams routinely. Structures light enough to fly but strong enough to survive supersonic stress. Engines that ignite reliably at extreme pressure. And guidance software with zero tolerance for error. Since a rocket that drifts off course by a fraction of a degree can miss orbit entirely or come apart, government space agencies had decades and effectively unlimited budgets to work through those failures. Private companies do not get that runway. Investors expect results, which is why most private orbital attempts worldwide, including several well-funded American and European startups, have ended in the ocean or a fireball on the pad. SpaceX needed 3 failed attempts before its Falcon 1 reached orbit in 2008. Skyroot reaching orbit on its very first try puts it ahead of that specific curve. Even if the company itself is still young. Before you crown Skyroot the next SpaceX, weigh what one successful flight does not prove. A payload capacity of 350 kilograms is a fraction of what established players fly. SpaceX's Falcon 9 routinely carries over 22,000 kilograms to low Earth orbit. So Vikram-1 competes for small satellite contracts, not the heavy commercial launch market that generates most industry revenue. One clean flight is also not a track record. Reliability is proven over dozens of launches, not one. And the space industry's history is full of vehicles that flew perfectly once and then failed repeatedly afterward. The mission also launched from a government-owned spaceport under India's existing space regulatory framework, which is normal practice worldwide but means calling this a purely private achievement understates how much public infrastructure made it possible. Real commercial viability depends on Skyroot proving it can launch again, on schedule, at a price customers will pay. Repeatedly. Even with those caveats, the strategic significance is real. Global demand for small satellite launches, for communications constellations, Earth observation, and scientific payloads has been outpacing the launch capacity available to serve it. And every new reliable provider chips away at the backlog in the price customers pay to get to orbit. For India specifically, this breaks a decades-long pattern where only the state space agency, ISRO, could put anything into orbit, opening the door to a domestic private launch industry that can compete for international small satellite contracts instead of losing that business to American and European providers. It also signals to investors globally that India's space sector, only opened to private companies in 2020, can produce technically credible results fast. A second and third successful launch would do more to prove that than any amount of coverage of this first one. Quick recap. Skyroot Aerospace's Vikram-1 reached a 450-kilometer orbit on its first attempt on July 18, 2026, making India the third nation with a private company capable of orbital launch, behind only the United States and China. The rocket is real, the orbit is real, and clearing that bar on a first flight is a genuine technical achievement few companies pull off. So, signal or noise? Signal. On the technical milestone itself. It happened. It is verifiable. And it matters for India's space ambitions. Still developing. On the bigger claim that Skyroot is now a serious commercial launch competitor that requires repeat successful flights, this one launch cannot yet prove. Watch for Vikram-1's second flight. That is the number that will actually tell you whether this was a fluke or a foundation. Subscribe for the space milestones checked against what they can actually prove. Signal from the noise. Every week.